Hey, what's going on, everybody? So today I'm just gonna make a quick video on how to fix your odometer light if it's flashing or not staying on. My truck actually had that problem, but I already fixed it. But I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys the process that I went through. Alright guys, so the tools you're gonna need real quick are flathead screwdriver, a small ratchet, an extension, a 7/32 socket, preferably a longer one just like this, a 7mm socket, this one you'll probably use the most, and then some solder, and then a soldering iron. Get right into it. First thing we'll do is just pop this little panel off here with the switches for the headlights, and all you'll need is a flathead screwdriver. It has a little indentation on the bottom. You just insert the screwdriver right there and then pry it up, and it'll come right out. Then you'll have to unplug these two connectors for the switches. Again, I'm going to try and do this one-handed, so just bear with me. And there goes the other one. So the reason why we take that out is so we can get to that bolt that's right back here. And then next what we'll do is lower, I actually like to lower the steering wheel down. I'm going to have to use my other hand for this one. Lower it all the way down. That way it gets it out of the way a little bit. You can just turn it over, put that down all the way so you can pop this here panel off. There's no screws or anything like that. You just pop it off and then lift it up and out just like that and set it off to the side. And now you can see more of your bolts that you'll need to remove. All right there. So now what we're gonna do is unscrew these on the top trim piece here. You'll see there's one right here, and so on. So I'm gonna go ahead and unscrew those first and then get to the bottom section. All right, so once you got all the screws out, it's the one right there that is behind the panel we took off first. There's gonna be one down here to the left. There's actually two bolts underneath here, but it's gonna be the one on the left. And right here there's gonna be two bolts, and it's gonna be the one on the right hand side, and then that one that sticks out right there. And then of course all your top bolts. Once you have all those, you actually be able to just pry off this this panel up down here where the pedals. For my truck I have the adjustable pedals. There's another switch. All you got to do is just take that off. Okay, so I removed that little clip there, that black clip. All it has another tab on it on the side. You just press down and then pull out. So once you have all this ready to get out of here, go ahead and put that lever down again, and then so all I did was just push this side down, brings that side up, and then boom, you can just bring it right around the steering wheel. And again, I'm just putting all my pieces down there on the floorboard. Put it back in park. Now we're on the bolts that some people might think that they're a little bit tricky, but as long as you have an extension, you'll be fine. There's one in the top left corner, bottom left corner, top right corner, and the bottom right corner, and that one that back there is probably the hardest one. So it's only those four bolts holding the actual gauge cluster in. So I'm gonna go ahead and take those out and then get right back. All right, so now that all the bolts are out, this gauge cluster can actually, move out of the way and everything. But there's two things, actually three things. There's two connections, two electrical harnesses behind the gauge cluster on each side. So we'll have to take those out. And also, if you look here, the little lever that shows where the gear you're in, we actually have to pop that out too. A lot of people try to go underneath and have to remove this panel and everything like that to remove the little string deal that it's attached to, the little lever down there. But I find it's just easier to remove the plastic piece up here. There's a little lever down here, right here where my finger is. There's one on each side. So the other one is right here behind this white piece. You'll see it moving. So I'm gonna have to use two hands on it, but I'll show you guys what it looks like after you remove it. all it is push this in on both sides, and then you should be able to just pull it down. See, this side's already going with a little bit I did. So let me take that off real quick. All right, so I pushed both those pieces in, and like it literally just slid down. So still trying to use one hand. Hang on. There it is, and that's it. That's unplugged. So after that's removed, you can actually move this whole gauge cluster a lot more. And what you want to do is reach back there and unplug that first harness, and then you can reach the second harness. So what I'm going to do is there's one. Now I can move this a little bit more. Make sure the string goes all the way down. And then the other one is right here. There's a white connector and a black connector. So now that I undid the black, the white one's the one that's on the right hand side. Right, so with that white clip back there, just disconnected that. So now I can actually remove this whole assembly. I actually been doing this whole job with the door closed. It's so much easier with it open, but it looked like it might rain, so I didn't want to risk that. But there it is. Now that the gauge cluster's out, I'll take this inside and finish it up. Alright, so to remove this, I just laid the gauge cluster face down, just like that. And there'll be these tiny little screws here. Alright guys, so once you remove all of those bolts, you just take this back panel off, set that off to the side there. And then you'll notice this motherboard here. It's actually held in by these prongs, but it's really easy to pop it off. First, we'll actually remove this little clear piece here. It's a connector. Just work it back and forth and it'll come off. Just be careful with it. Once that's off, we can pry this motherboard off. Real easy, as you can tell, one hand and everything. Once that's off, you can go ahead and move this off to the side. And then how I'm going to face this is just flip this over to where there's a lot less going on here. You can see the bulbs too. And the part we're going to focus on is right down here where this cutout is. I'll go ahead and zoom in, but just so you guys get your bearing, you know, you can see where I'm at. Now I'll zoom in a little bit and actually show you. So right off the bat, you can see where I soldered before, which I'm just going to use my soldering iron to point them out since it's pointier with my finger. One right here, and this one over here. Now 9 times out of 10, I've seen everybody, they usually, if they only solder one, instead of doing all of them, they'll do this one, and that seems to be the one that causes the problem. So if you solder that, you should be good to go. However, when I did mine, I wanted to be, you know, safe than sorry, so I went ahead and did this end as well. And soldering both of those definitely fixed my problem. You know, I put a generous amount on there. For me, this one, and a lot of other people I know, was the one that, like I said, was the culprit. It was cracked for me. Some people I've seen, they had chips taken out of theirs. They're all supposed to look just like that from factory, but I guess they just chip over time. There are a lot of people too that go ahead and solder each one all the way down just cause, and I guess a preventative measure. But I did the ends. I'm not gonna actually solder here just because like I said, I already did them and I don't want to do those in between just because I don't have a need to. Once those two ends are soldered and good to go, you can go ahead and assemble the cluster back, and then what we're going to do is test it to make sure that the light does stay on, and then after that we'll go on with the full process of installing everything back and putting everything back where we got it. So go ahead and set this back on there, push it down to where all the prongs sit in their locations, make sure nothing breaks. Go ahead and plug this little connector back in. I just want to make sure that I line up all these all those prongs in there in the right way. And then yeah, you'll know when it seats, it'll make a little clicking sound. So that's good. And of course grab the back piece. And once that's on there, you go ahead and put all the screws back in, and then I'll meet you guys in the truck. Alright guys, so to put the gauge cluster back in, we're just going to reverse the process that we took it out in. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and put this end in there. Since I only got one hand, I'm going to connect the that white connector harness into the back, and then the black one, and then I'll show you whenever I connect the gear select gauge. So now that I plugged those harnesses back in the back, you can see the odometer is working perfectly. And even if you go over here, you can see the trip meter. And if you want, you can wait a little while just to make sure it stays on. But since I know mine works, I'm gonna go ahead and keep going with the installation process. So what I'm gonna do now is grab that gear select gauge on there and put it back right where we got it from. So for this, all I did was put the top portion behind this black piece here, and I'm gonna push it up, and it should help lock it in place. Yep, and just like that, super simple. I think it's easier to put it back in than it is to take it off, actually. Once you have all that in there, you can go ahead and put this back in its place. Go ahead and put all the bolts in there, and then we'll put the rest of the trim pieces back on. Alright, so all the bolts are in, all 4 of them. Went ahead and grabbed this piece. We're gonna go ahead and put this on next. Alright, so that trim piece is back up in there. Next, I'm just gonna go ahead and put the bolts in. Then I'll install this piece here. Once that piece is in, go ahead and put this other little plastic trim piece on here. And this one just pops back into place as well. And there you go, all done. Everything's reinstalled. Odometer's working perfectly. And then of course make sure you know all your other stuff works, your lights, dimmer switch here, pedals, just to make sure everything on this side is still all connected, since we did disconnect stuff there. And as long as all your gauges are working, you know those 2 harnesses are plugged in back there. Of course your gear select lever, you'll know that's good if it's working. And that's all there is to it. So that's all I got for today, guys. I hope this fix worked for you. Definitely worked for me, and I'm glad it didn't cost much either. It was less than 10 bucks. So, and if you already have a soldering iron, well, it doesn't cost you anything. So that being said, I'll catch you guys next time.